agenda?
So moved.
We got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We need to back up, don't we?
What?
Order. Approval of the
Comments,
agenda.
comments from the public.
No, we're on number 4. Number 4.
What's the agenda?
We added an item, approval of the agenda. We did that a little while ago because we just thought every now and then we make a change, and so it would just be good. And then it also allows you to change the order. So that is your new item number 4 on every agenda.
So what are you voting on?
Okay, we approved the agenda. Okay, now, comments from the public. Come forward.
I'm Mindy Schultz. I live on the corner of 21st and North Ozark, 22nd and North Ozark. Hello. Don't even remember where I live. I just wanted to bring it to the city's attention. We need something done about the traffic on North Ozark, especially now with the lanes being condensed on Armour. We're seeing a huge influx of traffic on North Ozark. People are flying through there. There is no speed limit. It's ridiculous. And it's not just the general public. City workers, we've seen the city trucks. There's an EW towing. It's a big black and orange vehicle, towing truck that flies through there 30, 40 miles an hour at least. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's crazy. Nobody obeys the speed limit. I know we can't put speed bumps and stuff down because that's a main passageway for the emergency vehicles, and I get that. But it's just, it's incredibly bad. And trash gets thrown into our yards, you know. I don't have much, but what I do have, I try to keep it nice. And, you know, it's a real concern. And unfortunately, with all the new development and everything that's going on, I know the police are going to be stretched even more thin than they are now. And it's just, I wanted to voice my concern and my displeasure at the increased traffic on North Ozark. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Chief Beamer, can you kind of look into that? Anybody else? Well, hearing none, let's move on.
I move the consent agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Number 7?
10.
Oh, that's it, okay.
10.
Number 10,
10, yeah.
approval of compensation study update, resolution number 19-047.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. At its meeting of March 5th, City Council approved entering into a contract with Gallagher Benefits Services to update a 2015 compensation study that Gallagher performed for the city. The study now, we do have it in our hands, and it does indicate that the city is paying amounts that are fairly consistent with the external labor market. The consultant is here tonight if you have any questions to her as to how these kind of things are computed, Gail Merriweather of Gallagher. It does find that there are a small number, but a certain number of employees that are currently being paid a little bit below the minimum of the recommended salary ranges, the new recommended salary ranges. So I do recommend that we bring to you at your next meeting in action to bring those employees, once you've accepted this study, to bring those employees up to the bottom of their recommended range. Attached to the memo, we have a sample salary matrix. This is what we use each year to determine increases for employees. Those vary a couple of different ways. First of all, we go by if an employee is evaluated to have exceeded expectations, met expectations, or failed to meet expectations, and that will vary how much of an increase they receive. And then it also varies according to what quartile their particular wage or salary level is at in the range that's been established for the positions. So this is just a sample here, but I just wanted to show you sort of how we do it each year when we compute it. And then that is also based upon the budget increase that the council approves when it approves the budget. With that, if you have any questions, we'll be happy to try to answer them. It is recommended to council that we approve the resolution. Did you approve the resolution accepting the consultant report and directing us to implement its recommendations?
Well, a couple things. One, I appreciate doing the report. We did this a few years back.
In 2015.
2015, okay.
We think you should do about every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that sounds good. And then on the employees who are at a rate lower than the minimum, have we looked at the reasons why that is? Are they newer associates? Are they associates who haven't performed well? Are they, have we looked at the root cause of that?
No, I think we don't have employees. If we have employees that haven't gotten increases, then after a while, they're not with us anymore. So, no, I think it's just a factor of where they were hired, how long they've been
Just
here.
a
But we
timing
didn't
kind of
try to
issue?
do it, that's right. Yeah, we didn't try to identify exactly, what was going on in each one. But the recommended ranges in some cases are higher than we had been paying, and so that's what then.
More like a market
out.
adjustment?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Do we get a motion?
I move to approve. Oh,
Yeah, go ahead, Fred.
On this, I think it's page 6 of the study, but it's also page 13. And you have the compensation structure. Is that the average of the cities that were compared to?
So, Ms. Meriwether, would you mind coming forward and talking about how you established these recommended ranges?
I thought I'd be able to sit in the corner and be able to get out of here.
so close.
I know.
I think on your thing, on your deal, I think it's page 6.
Actually, I've got a copy of the report, so I can tell you that, yes, we did compare to other municipalities. It included Belton, Gardner, Grandview, Independence, Lee Summit, Liberty, Prairie Village, Raymore, Shawnee. We also looked in surveys, too, that identified market data for jobs in the Kansas City area, because there are jobs that you will lose not just to other municipalities, but to the private sector, accounting, finance position, IT positions. So we took a look, of course, at MARC, comp data, Kansas Wage, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Kansas City, Missouri. We aged the data for a common effective date, which was June 2019. Did the averaging, and let me say that there's an average, and then we go about 20% below that average to establish the minimum, and about 20% above that average to establish the maximum. So when my city administrator here say that there are some folks who are paid below the minimum, he's saying that they are paid below 20% of the market rate of pay.
Okay, but the chart that is there is that's not what we currently have, is it? I mean, it's because it says 2019 compensation structure.
This is what's being recommended.
That's what's being recommended.
If you adopt it tonight.
That's what I wanted. And when you did that, you just take in salaries. You don't take in things like car allowance.
No.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Aye.
Application for conditional use permit, The Little Store, Bill number 7427, ordinance number 9224.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the Community Development Director, Sarah Copeland.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I believe that every one of you is familiar with the Little Store since it's a longtime fixture in the avenues. When it reopened in 2006, it was reopening pursuant to some variances that were approved by the Board of Zoning Adjustment at that time. And part of those variance approvals, there were some stipulations limiting the hours of operation and prohibiting the sale of alcohol. The owner is now requesting a conditional use permit pursuant to our brand new zoning ordinance. to permit them to operate retail limited and restaurant limited uses in that location, to allow them to expand their hours of operation and to serve both liquor by the drink and by package sales. Those are things that are allowed pursuant to a conditional use permit with our new ordinance. We held the required public hearing last Thursday before the Planning Commission. 2 people spoke, both in favor of approval of the conditional use permit. Staff is recommending approval pursuant to the 8 proposed conditions that are in the proposed ordinance, and the Planning Commission did vote unanimously to recommend approval to you with these 8 conditions. I'll run through these conditions for you. One is that retail or restaurant uses shall be limited to less than 1,500 square feet of building area. That's part of the definition of what is limited retail and limited restaurant uses in the zoning ordinance. 2 is that retail and restaurant operations shall be limited to Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Those were the hours of operation requested by the applicant. 3 is no signs advertising the sale of alcoholic beverages shall be visible outside the building at 2107 Knox. 4 is that sales by drink liquor licenses shall be restricted to restaurant bar licenses only. Tavern licenses shall not be issued for an establishment at 2107 Knox. And the applicant shall be responsible for obtaining all necessary local, county, and state licenses. 5, any tables, chairs, or other furnishings shall be confined to the subject property and not allowed to block or impede ingress or egress to the building or to encroach into the right-of-way. And then 6, 7, and 8 are our standard conditions for conditional use permits. The applicant shall comply with all amendments or revisions requested by staff to comply with adopted building codes, utility requirements, or site plan requirements. 7 is that the conditional use permit applies only to the use described in the application. In the event of any changes in the use of buildings or properties subject to the permit, the property owner shall notify the city of those changes within 6 months so that the city may determine if the conditional use permit must be amended, reauthorized, discontinued, or revoked. And 8 is the continuation and effectiveness of this permit is contingent on the operation being conducted without any effects detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have about this.
First reading.
Second.
Aye.
An ordinance authorizing a conditional use permit to permit retail limited and restaurant limited as a conditional use at 2107 Knox, subject to the conditions incorporated herein.
I move that bill number 7427 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9224.
Second.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing a conditional use permit to permit retail limited and restaurant limited as a conditional use at 2107 Knox, subject to the conditions incorporated herein. Mural agreement, property owner, bill number 7422, ordinance number 9219.
Thanks, sir. I'll call on the Assistant City Administrator, Kim Nakahoto.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm actually going to touch on a couple of things for both item number 12 and 13, since those 2 items are tied together. Before you this evening are 2 agreements to authorize a public art mural that will be funded out of the Timothy C. Crummett Foundation. The committee began the Call to Walls program in April, and what was a 2-step program. The first one was a Call to Walls. It was open to any building owner here in North Kansas City to submit their wall for consideration to have a piece of public art, a mural placed on it. The committee then selected the Brookery, which is located at 1443 Swift Street. And we then did another call, but this one was a call to artists for a site-specific mural to be placed onto that wall. The committee received 5 different artist applications, and they selected artist Brew Lamb. In your agenda packet, it will show the proposed wall as well as the proposed mural. The mural will, like I said, there are 2 kind of parts to this agreement. The first one is a building easement agreement, where we will enter into a contract with the building owner for 5-year easement, meaning that once that mural is installed, it will remain in place for 5 years. The city will assume the liability for maintenance of that, and the building owner cannot charge any type of entry fee to have public access to that particular mural. The second contract is actually for the artist to paint that mural on the side of the brewery, and upon the approval of both agreements, the artist, Brew Lamb, has told me he will begin on Friday. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know.
Is Mr. Lamb here? See,
I do not see Mr. Lamb here.
Okay.
Sean from the brewery is here, though.
I don't have any questions for Sean. Good thing. Yeah,
First reading.
second.
An ordinance approving and accepting an art easement conveyance from Shea Lynn Development LLC, authorizing the placement of a mural on the north wall of real property located generally at 1443 Swift Street in the city of North Kansas City.
I move that bill number 7422 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9219.
Second.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
An ordinance approving and accepting an art easement conveyance from Shea Lynn Development LLC, authorizing the placement of a mural on the north wall of real property located generally at 1443 Swift Street in the city of North Kansas City. Mural agreement artist, resolution number 19051.
First,
I'll-
moved.
One sec.
Oh, go
I'll
ahead.
go ahead and throw in a comment here, just on the project overall. Should have done the last one, but I'll go ahead. Excited about this. I think it's a fun project. I'm glad to see us embracing public art, as well as I think it's going to bring a lot of color and vibrancy to the area. And as I hope we don't stop here and continue to support these type of initiatives. That's all I got. Thank you.
So moved.
All in favor?
All,
Yeah, sorry, I missed
Do a
it.
second? Did someone do a second?
We got a first and a
Get
second.
a second.
Oh,
Waiting for.
all in favor?
Waiting for you, sir.
I got it all.
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of property tax collections agreement with Clay County and Clay County Collector. Bill number 7409, ordinance number 9206.
Thank you, sir. By means of an agreement between Clay County, the Clay County Collector, and the city, the collector has collected property taxes from North Kansas City residents and businesses since 2012. The agreement that we have with the Clay County Commission and the County Collector expires with the collection of taxes this year. So it is necessary to renew the agreement. So before you is a new agreement for the years 2019 to 22 with provision for subsequent automatic renewal for 2023 to 26 unless one of us cancels. The compensation for these services is the same as it has been. The city pays a fee of 1% of the taxes and any fees or assessments for collection, and then there's an additional 0.6% which goes to the county assessment fund to pay for property assessment services performed by Clay County assessor. Staff does recommend approval of the ordinance approving the agreement between the city, Clay County, and the Clay County Collector.
Now, when there are three people that extra assessment went forward,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
when there are three people that they were trying to get them to collect that assessment and the county said no,
Well, that involved the PACE program, and the council approved eliminating the Missouri Clean Energy District PACE program, a couple of months ago. So that is not at issue with your action here tonight.
okay.
But there were three people who were part of that program, and they would be they will continue to have their assessments collected by the Clay County Collector. But as I say, that's not at issue with this renewal tonight.
First reading.
Second.
Aye.
An ordinance adopting and approving an agreement by and among Clay County, Missouri, the Clay County Collector, and the City of North Kansas City, Missouri for collection of city property taxes.
I move that bill number 7409 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9206.
Second.
Councilmember Pearman,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart,
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan,
Yes.
Councilmember Farr,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong,
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
An ordinance adopting and approving an agreement by and among Clay County, Missouri, the Clay County Collector, and the City of North Kansas City, Missouri for collection of city property taxes.
Okay, 15.
Award of contract on-call consulting engineering services, resolution number 19-048.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on the Public Works Director, Pat Hopper.
Thank you. In July, the three-year contract for on-call engineering with McClure Engineering expired. Earlier, we had put out a request for proposals and we received 6 qualification statements from different engineers. We had a committee that met with 3 of them and interviewed them. And from those interviews, we found that Wilson and Company had the best qualifications for the city of North Kansas City. We recommend entering into a 3-year contract with Wilson and Company.
Have we ever worked with them before?
No,
No, I've never heard of them.
They are a well-known firm here in the Kansas
They are?
City
Okay,
area.
I just, yeah, I missed it, so. Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Aye.
Budget Amendment, Water Pollution Control Fund, Electricity, resolution number 19-049.
Thank you, sir. I'll call on Mr. Hopper.
thank you. The cost of electricity consumption and water pollution control, WPC, is primarily for pumps, both sanitary sewer pumps and storm sewer pumps. Storm sewer pumps, when they're on, consume a great deal of energy, and due to the high river stages they were on from March through, still they're on periodically when it rains. We saw this coming a long time. We budgeted $250,000 for electricity, and currently we've exceeded that by $7,758. So approval of a budget amendment appropriating $55,000 from the WPC fund in the amount of, is recommended by staff to get us through this fiscal year.
We installed solar panels down there on those pump stations. Was that a waste of time?
No, we're saving energy,
No, okay.
yes.
Just like for recycling. Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Brian DeLong. He's your second.
Budget Amendment, Gateway Park Furnishings, resolution number 19-050.
Thank you, sir. At your last meeting, the City Council approved entering into a lease agreement with Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission, the governing body of MoDOT, for open space at the southeast corner of 10th Avenue in Burlington, for the purpose of improving some of that space to create a shaded seating area. What we're contemplating is the installation of 2 shade structures that look a lot like the ones across the street in Dagg Park, and moving the tables and benches that are currently in Town Square, which are underused and kind of outdated, to that area. So now before the council to pay for the purchase of those shade structures and other materials to prepare for the area is a budget amendment in the amount of $17,000.
I have a question. I'm sorry, I was not at the last meeting. It may have already been asked. Obviously, I'm in favor of this. Have we contacted the individuals who are bringing food to that area and let them know that this is in
We
the
will.
works?
We do know,
Good.
we do have contacts for them, and we have had discussions a while ago about it. And they've indicated they're happy to go wherever the folks that need it are. So we are hoping that the folks that need it will go to this new space that we're creating.
I'll try to help with that a bit myself.
But we will be in
but
touch with them, yes.
And also the businesses in the area.
Yes,
We had
we'll
talked
do
about
that
that
as well.
before.
let them
Okay,
know
thank
we're doing this, or we may be doing.
Is this the same area or not that our internet was vandalized?
No.
That was actually underneath the Heart of America Bridge. It
Where they
was-
built the campfire inside the electrical box?
Both of those are two separate incidents, and both occurred in Kansas City. One completely across the river, downtown Kansas City, and then one underneath the Heart of America Bridge, but also within Kansas City's city limits.
So there's no connection to the group of people there and the vandalism, or do they know?
Well, we don't know who did either of those.
I hate to build a little complex for people
Yeah.
that vandalize our web system.
Well, that's making a big assumption that these folks have anything to do with.
I said if.
Okay, I'm just saying, if you put it out there, you're making a connection that is maybe not true.
Maybe not, but maybe it is. The only people live down there.
Well,
Well, in addition to that, they're going to be going down there. These food service operations have been operating down there for years. They're going to continue to operate down there for years. And giving people a decent place to actually sit down and eat the food is something I think needs to be done.
well, and fiber needs to be protected so that it's not able to be vandalized, no matter who the person is that could potentially be vandalized.
And I know that KC Fiber is doing its best to
I'm
try
sure
to
they are, yes.
to try to harden those facilities.
Right.
yeah.
That was kind of my question is, do we know if there are any access points to the fiber network that could be vandalized in that area that we could secure in the same process?
No, we're not.
Okay.
Again, we are really, those folks are congregating in that area now. We're just trying to move them a little bit further south, which is a little bit less visible. But
Absolutely.
Virtually the same area where they are now.
My question would be the issue that happened in KC Mo on the downtown side where the campfire was lit. Maybe it was on purpose, maybe not, but it did damage the fiber. If there was anything like that on this side that could also be inadvertently damaged that we could take a look at and secure.
I'll talk to KC Fiber about that.
Move to approve.
Second.
Aye.
Amendment to Municipal Code regarding fence regulations, Bill number 7423, ordinance number 9220.
Thanks, sir. I'll call on Ms. Copeland.
Our new zoning ordinance, which you adopted on July 2nd, contains a new section on open space and landscape design. And that section contains a variety of amended requirements regarding open space and landscaping and screening requirements. And as part of the overhaul of the ordinance, we moved requirements for fencing into this section because fencing is often used as screening. And so this was intended to provide greater clarity for property owners. Shortly after you adopted the zoning ordinance, we realized we should have also amended Chapter 15, where the old fence standards were, to remove those standards from the ordinance. They are largely the same, but there are some minor differences, and we just don't want to have the same standards in two different sections of the municipal code. So the ordinance before you would eliminate the existing Section 1540.030 regulations and Section 1540.040 about exceptions, which have been moved into the new zoning ordinance, and makes minor edits to the remaining two sections, which reference the requirement to get a fence permit before one erects a fence. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance amending Chapter 15.40 fences of the Code of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri.
I move that bill number 7423 be placed on second and final reading. Passes ordinance number 9220.
Second?
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
An ordinance amending Chapter 15.40 fences of the Code of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri. Financial Disclosure Ordinance, Bill Number 7426, Ordinance Number 9223.
Eric.
Thanks, sir. This is a routine ordinance that the council adopts every year. Missouri law requires that the political subdivisions with annual operating budgets over $1 million adopt an ordinance at an open meeting by September 15th, making public their method of disclosing potential conflicts of interest. If the city does not adopt its own method of disclosing conflicts of interest, it will automatically fall under the complex state reporting requirements. Under this ordinance, the only officials that need to file a financial disclosure statement the following year: the chief purchasing officer, the chief administrative officer, full-time general counsel, and those employees and elected officials who've had a transaction of more than $500 with the political subdivision, which does not include your compensation for being a council member. We do recommend passage of the ordinance.
One question on this. How many people do we have actually filed this? Do we have anybody right now?
Well, I do. I believe the city councilor
Okay,
does.
so we have at least, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
First reading.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
An ordinance of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain officials.
I move that bill number 7426 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9223.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
An ordinance of the City of North Kansas City, Missouri to establish a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain officials. Approving accounts due and payable by the city through August 2nd, 2019. Bill number 7425, ordinance number 9222.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through August 2nd, 2019.
I move that bill number 7425 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9222.
Second.
Call the roll.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through August 2nd, 2019.
Mr. Eric.
Well, thank you, sir. We do have a number of staff comments tonight. I would just note that the upcoming city items of note report is in your packet. The report on the financial report from the 2019 Arts in the Park Festival is in your packet as well. And the city's quarterly financial report of all funds are all in your packets. If you have any questions, we can try to answer those. Okay. I'd like to call on the Assistant City Administrator, Kim Nakahoto.
Good evening. I was just going to mention that the second to last Communities for All Ages meeting is next week, Thursday, August 15th, 6 p.m. at the YMCA, and it covers sections 4 and 5 of the workbook, which includes social inclusion, communication, civic participation, and employment.
What time is that?
6 p.m. at the YMCA.
Thank you. I'd like to call on the Police Chief, Steve Beamer.
Thank you, sir. School starts next Wednesday, the 14th, and we were notified a little over a week ago of some challenges that are going to be coming with the start of the school year and the ongoing construction at the school. Last year, when students moved between Norclay and the new building, the main thoroughfare that was used was the south end of the stadium and then passing there at approximately 25th and Iron when they crossed over to Norclay. The construction in the area that the students have utilized in the past year That's not going to be available at the start of the school year because that whole area has been torn up to put in new sewer lines. So what the school has proposed and what seems to be the most reasonable solution in the short term is to utilize 26th Avenue as the passing point between the main building and Norclay. The school has pledged to have their administrators and their campus supervisors out on 26th Avenue to manage the traffic during those passing periods, which are going to be 5, 7, 8 minutes as the students are moving back and forth between Norclay and the main building, to make sure that the students move quickly, stay out of yards, and just in general behave themselves when they're moving back and forth between the buildings. The project at the south end of the stadium will be done September 5th. That's important because the first football game is September 6th. They're going to need that space for the football game, and they have told J.E. Dunn, we have to have it done, and Dunn has apparently said, okay. So once we get that south end of the stadium back in service, then student traffic, pedestrian traffic will begin to move in the same manner that it did last year. So this is a relatively short-term thing, but quite honestly, in sitting down and looking at it with them, I don't know that there's a better way to do it. The other way would involve students actually exiting onto 23rd Avenue out of the new entrance to the school, moving completely around the construction site, and then going to Norclay. So 26th Avenue in the short term, I think, is the best option, and we wanted to make you aware of it. The school is mailing out information to the residents on 26th Avenue, making them aware of this, and giving them just a broad update on the progress of the school's construction and when they believe it will be done.
Just a quick question. So having construction slated to be finished on the 5th, I mean, as is the rule with constructions, delays are almost always inevitable. I mean, do we have a contingency for that football game if it's not done on the 5th?
We don't. As far as what, I mean, we have not had a conversation with the school about what they're going to do if that area is not completed. I believe that they are going to hold Dunn's feet to the fire to get it done because I don't know that they could have a game in there in the condition that area is in right now.
Steve, you said they'd be out managing the traffic being the students and what automobiles are there?
Yes. So what they plan on doing, and this is being done after discussions with us, is they will place campus supervisors with appropriate safety gear at 26th and Fayette, 26th and Howell to keep traffic off of that section of roadway while the students are passing. And then administrators will be out there as well to make sure that the kids don't wander up into sidewalks and yards and just basically get between one building and the other.
One other thing, is there any instruction on the campus supervisors to provide some sort of break in the traffic for cars to pass? Because that can back up traffic all the way up to the end of Mackin Park sometimes.
Well, during the school day, traffic in that area is not as congested as it is like during morning or evening rush. So when we're talking about during class breaks, during the school day, traffic, and once again, these things will happen for no more than 7 minutes. I don't think there'll be significant traffic backups, and if they start to happen, people will bail at Clark Ferguson, 27th Avenue, something like that, and work around it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I'd like to call on Ms. Copeland.
You may remember that we entered into a purchase option for the property at 1007 Armour with the Yarco companies. This is the L-shaped piece of property the city owns between Tay's Burger Shack and the YMCA. And they are working on their application to the Missouri Housing Development Corporation for tax credits to do a multifamily development there. MHDC has apparently changed their application and their scoring process this year, such that having the appropriate zoning in place at the time of the application scores more points for the development. And this we were made aware of this just a few weeks ago after you adopted the new zoning ordinance. And the changes that we made, the M1 district, which is what that property is currently zoned, does not now allow for residential development. So the developer has asked if we would accept an application to rezone that property. Staff does not have any problem accepting an application, but generally we require an applicant to show that they either own the property themselves or they have the consent of the property owner to make the application. So what we're asking from you tonight is whether we have your consent for them to make that application. We're not asking you to consider the merits of the application tonight, but whether we can allow YARCO to submit an application to us.
We'll assume it's okay. That's all right. All right. Thank you. Couple other things. Just like to let you know, as most of you know, we have been under a consent order from the Environmental Protection Agency for a couple of years, about 2.5 years. Gone through a lot of steps to comply with that consent order. And pleased to tell you that we have recently received the official notification from the EPA that we are no longer under that consent order, that we've been released. So a lot of work went into getting to that point, and we're glad to be back in the good graces of the
Great news.
of the federal government. Would like to just remind you that you are scheduled to have budget work sessions on September 4th and 11th at 6 p.m. And lastly, this is also a conversation we have with you just about every year at this time. We have to adopt our property tax rate by September 1st, according to law. And we always run up close to that deadline because we have to get our assessment information from the Clay County assessor. They have to provide it to the state auditor, who then calculates, according to the Missouri Hancock Amendment, what either may or must occur with the property tax rate in terms of a rate increase. If your assessments have decreased, we do not anticipate that. Or if your rates have increased beyond a certain amount, the amount that you must decrease your property tax rate. So all of that relies on the county assessor, and they don't provide that information until later in August. So we always ask for you to schedule a special meeting. It's usually about a 10-minute meeting, usually the last week of August. We are suggesting a Tuesday, August 27th, thinking that you often have Tuesdays open, because that's when our regular council meetings are. To schedule that meeting, we should have all the information from the state auditor and Clay County assessor by then to set the property tax rate at 6 o'clock. May we do that? All right, thank you, we will. And that concludes staff comments, sir.
Okay, I just have a few things. One, I wanted to congratulate and thank Timothy Roberts for his reappointment to the Planning Commission. Always appreciate people who serve on our boards and commissions. Congratulations to the Little Store. Ron, thank you for being here. Somewhere behind Pat. I can't see you, but hello, I'll see you in the neighborhood. And congratulations to Brew Lamb, and I'm looking forward to the mural. I've seen a lot of murals in other cities. They're amazing. I'm looking forward to having one of our very own. Maybe this is the first of others, too. I think they're cool, and they're a great way to build a community and have great art in the community, so I appreciate that. And that's it for me.
I've just got a couple of things. Want to echo Valerie's comments on the Little Store, and glad that you know, you're a great asset to our avenues down there, and a lot of people use it, and great food, so I'm glad that we can get you helped out there. Also, wanted to remind everybody there was a concert, Friday night concert in the park this Friday night. So hopefully we'll have some good weather and come on out and enjoy the concert. The only other thing is, too, I believe on one of the social media sites, and I get them all mixed up, it's the NKC Now forum, open forum, talks about some of the, you know, issues and questions about the Armour Road and the work that we're doing on Armour Road, and it's got a lot of good information, so I'd invite anybody to check that out as well. Those are my comments.
Also, congratulate the Little Store on their new sales. The coming up, and I hope it helps you out. I know it's a struggle down there, and it wouldn't be the same in the neighborhood, you know, if you wasn't there. So that's a good thing. Now I'm disappointed with the Parks Department. And I think you know what I'm going to say. Some of you do.
Bike rack.
We waited 5 months. It took you 5 months after we requested bicycle racks so people can lock up their bicycles when they visit. And you got one installed for 2 bicycles at a place of public assembly. You know, I thought you would at least have one for 7, 10 bikes or so. You know, and if you ever want to buy another one and you don't want to wait 5 months, go on the internet. I found them that free delivery within 2 days, 10, 12 bikes, it doesn't matter. I don't know where you got that one, but I am interested in finding out what you paid for it. A 2 bicycle rack. I think you're going to have a lot of bicycles coming pretty soon, too. They're having another one of those get-togethers, I think. But I think you could have done better. That's all I have.
Well, I'd also like to express my appreciation to Timothy Roberts for serving on the Planning Commission, and also reiterate that, you know, this Friday, it'd be Friday night concert is going to be at Mackin Park at 7 p.m. And then on Saturday at 6 p.m. is Back to the School Bash at Mackin Park. And then at dusk, the same day, Saturday, August 10th, will be Movie in the Park. Then I'm going to say something else. I've received a lot of displeasure, a lot of heat from a lot of people over their displeasure with everything that's going on with Armour Road construction, and specifically the street lanes and the islands. And all I can tell them is at the time, it seemed to me like that was a good idea. And I don't know if I had to vote that over again. I might reconsider it. Not saying I'd approve it or disapprove it. But as they say, we'll just have to wait and see how this pans out. So I have expressed the dissatisfaction that I'd say anywhere from about 40% of a number of people that I've contacted are upset with it. And they tell me also other people are upset with it who utilize the YMCA. So I've made my statements for those people. I'm going to take the view, we'll just wait and see what happens. Hope it works out.
And I'll reiterate with Fred, I've taken a few heated calls from people with their displeasures, and I've told them to wait and see what's going to happen. When will this be done?
About 10 days to 2 weeks, is that a fair estimate? So we should have the temporary traffic cones and the construction equipment, all of that out of the area within 2 weeks. And we also hope that at that point, people have a chance to see it without all of that, we'll see if things settle down. But if I've talked to the mayor extensively about this project, and our intention would be at some time after construction's over to have a work session, have a discussion of what is there now, and any thoughts about that, and then any thoughts about future projects as well. So that's our intention going forward. But I think our staff's feeling is that getting through the construction is a key thing at this point.
I think somewhere after it's done, we should maybe request a traffic study, not only of cars, but of bikes, to see who is really utilizing this project. When it's done,
I understand, sir.
to see if we have spent our money wisely, or if we've got a pig in a poke. Thank you.
All right, I was going to thank the library tonight. The kids just concluded their summer reading program, and so last Saturday they had their summer reading rewards blast party, and it was a blast. The kids had a blast. It was fun at our always wonderful Mackin Park. So I just want to thank the library for that. As well as going to update everyone, I took a trip 2 weeks ago out to Dayton, Ohio as part of the National League of Cities First Tier Suburbs. We made a lot of economic development stops, but some of the ones that really hit home with me were their emergency management stops that we made. It's about Memorial Day this year. They had 14 tornadoes pass through the region. And so we talk about resiliency all the time and emergency management plans. I was curious if we could have a work session sometime to kind of hear a little bit update on like what our emergency management plan is, people's roles, what that looks like.
Yes.
Because their general feedback from the 2 cities we toured and we saw a lot of damage and talked to their elected officials as well as appointed, was what they learned was that they were ready for the event. When the event happened, they were all ready. The police and fire knew how to clear houses, public works, get out, clean out the streets, everything, open back up. What they weren't ready for was the next day and the day after. It was managing the volunteers, managing donations, ready for FEMA. Mutual aid agreements, I already talked to you about that, mentioned that at least briefly, the public works mutual aid agreements that they thought would maybe help if there was a similar incident. And as well as kind of that second phase of working with the Small Business Association for getting the business kind of off the ground and kind of propping them up too. And so that was kind of my takeaway, so I just thought I'd be interested in sometime hearing a little bit more about our.
We can schedule
plan.
that. Yes, sir.
Thank you. And that's all I have.
Okay, I don't want to beat a dead horse because Armor's already been talked about a lot, but I too, in our ward, I can't go anywhere walking my dog without hearing people complain about Armor Road. I actually do have a particular concern because when I leave my office and if I take a right off of Gentry, cone or no cone, it's almost impossible, no matter how tightly you make that turn, not to get into the turn lane. I've tried it every which way but to take the cone down. And it's still, I find myself going in there. So again, I guess we're going to have to wait and see. And, Richard, as you said, what I've told my constituents is there were a lot of, I wasn't even on the council during then. The city does a really good job giving everybody an opportunity to come and speak. If nothing else, this will be a learning lesson for them. And in my correspondence with a lot of the people, either on some of the websites or in person, is that everything else hasn't been done yet. Let's see how this goes. We can still revisit the other projects. Unfortunately, there's a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth with this one, so I suspect we might be visiting projects that may have been approved prior to this. As a result, just something we need to keep in mind. So I think having a work session after it's all said and done, I think the traffic study is a really good idea. Frankly, I'm not convinced we're going to see that much bike traffic down there, which was originally proposed, and I already see a lot of congestion just in between things. So we'll figure it out. It's there. Can't really fix that at this point. On a happier note, it's so much fun to see all the kids at the water park because as school gets closer, there's more and more kids at the water park. You can almost feel the anticipation in the air that it's like the last time they're going to get to do all the Parks and Rec things. And I think that Parks and Recs does a really good job having a lot of opportunities for kids to do an awful lot in this town. And I know a lot of kids in my neighborhood really appreciate the efforts of Park and Recreation in taking care of that. So thank you for that.
All right. I want to take a little different angle on the little store. Thank you all for coming out to support. This has been awesome, and I want to thank the staff for being diligent and working hard. There's been some negative sentiment in the community that things have been dragging on, and there's been reasons behind that. So I appreciate the patience from the community, and I'm glad that we got it done. I'm looking forward to having a beer over there, so it's going to be great. Second thing, Mackin Park improvements are looking very nice. Thank you to the Parks and Rec for doing that. The new track improvements where they've been cut out and redone. The field is looking great. The new fence going in, the electric parking spaces. And then something that's been done already, but it seems underutilized, is the pickleball striping on the tennis courts. If you're not playing that game, get out there and try it out. It's a lot of fun. And then, again, Armor Road patients, the cones aren't permanent. This is going to be something that we feel out as it goes. If you're having problems, send an email to your representative. That's fine. But what's inappropriate is calling and threatening people or being, irate. Don't do that. Just take a beat, take a breath, and this is something we're going to learn to have in our community. So that's all from me.
I think everything's been said. Okay.
Consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session is requested by the city administrator to be held on this date on a personnel matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute, Section 610.0213.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session is requested by the city councilor to be held on this date on a litigation matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute, Section 610.0211.
So moved.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
Councilmember Pierce?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.